He walked away from nearly $1 million. Just like that. Ryan Papenhuyzen, one of the most electrifying players in the NRL, has slammed the door shut on any comeback for the next 3 to 5 years. And the reason why will leave you stunned. This isn't your typical retirement story. This isn't about age catching up or chasing money overseas. This is about a 27-year-old superstar in his absolute prime saying no to the game that made him a household name. And when you hear what really happened in that final match against Brisbane, everything starts to make sense. September, Storm versus Broncos. Papenhuyzen takes a hit. But this wasn't just another knock. According to his teammate Cameron Munster, this concussion rattled Paps in a way nothing else had before. It shook him to his core. And suddenly, that $950,000 contract for 2025 didn't seem worth it anymore. Melbourne released him in late October. The Rugby League world held its breath. Where would he go? Which club would snatch up one of the game's most dangerous fullbacks? The Dolphins? The Titans? Maybe even a shock move to rugby union with that rebel R360 competition everyone's been talking about. But here's where it gets wild. At the Australian Open Pro-Am golf event, Papenhuyzen dropped a bombshell that nobody saw coming. He's not going anywhere. Not to another NRL club, not to rugby union, not to any professional code. For the next 3 to 5 years minimum, Ryan Papenhuyzen is done with elite sport. Let that sink in. A player who's won a premiership, who's been clocked as one of the fastest men in rugby league, who's torn defences apart with his footwork and vision, is choosing to walk away when he should be entering his peak years. Most players would kill for the opportunities he's turning down. Most players would sacrifice anything to stay in the game just a little bit longer. But perhaps he's walking in the opposite direction. He says he wants to explore life outside his comfort zone. He wants to achieve things beyond football. Maybe play some touch footy with mates in Sydney or Melbourne. Nothing serious, just for fun. The competitive fire that drove him to the top of the NRL, he's letting it fade. By choice. Even Peter V'landys, the ARLC chairman himself, has left the door wide open. Come back anytime, he said. The NRL would welcome you with open arms. No barriers, no complications. Just say the word and you're back in. Papenhuyzen's response? Thanks, but no thanks. This is a player who's progressed as both an athlete and a human being in his own words. He's reached a point where he realises there's more to life than the weekly grind of professional sport. More than the training sessions, the recovery protocols, the media commitments, the constant pressure to perform. More than the roar of the crowd and the glory of Friday night football. But here's what's really eating at rugby league fans. What if that concussion was worse than anyone's letting on? What if there's something deeper going on that we don't know about? Munster said it rattled him. What does that actually mean? How bad was it really? The Storm have been tight-lipped about the details. Papenhuyzen himself hasn't gone into specifics. All we know is that after that hit in September, something fundamental changed in his mind. The risk suddenly outweighed the reward. The money, the fame, the legacy, none of it mattered anymore when stacked up against his long-term health and happiness. This is the harsh reality of modern rugby league. These players are putting their bodies and brains on the line every single week. The hits are bigger, the collisions more brutal, the consequences more severe. And sometimes, just sometimes, a player looks in the mirror and asks themselves if it's really worth it. For Ryan Papenhuyzen, the answer is no. And the most shocking part, he's only 27 years old. He could have had another 5, 6, maybe 7 years at the top level. He could have added more premierships to his resume. He could have cemented himself as one of the all-time great fullbacks. He could have earned millions more dollars.
Watching a state of origin
Instead,
match,
he's choosing life
he
over
made
football,
the biggest mistake
peace
of his life.
over glory,
Will the
health
NRL still want
over
him?
wealth.
Will his
The
body
rugby league
still
world
be
is
ready?
still processing
Will he
this.
have lost that
Coaches are
split-second
scratching their
timing
heads.
that made him
Managers
special?
are wondering what this means
3
for
to 5
future contract
years
negotiations.
is an eternity in professional
Young players
sport.
are watching closely.
Players who take
seeing
even
a
1 year
different
off
path
struggle
forward.
to come back.
And fans,
Their speed
fans
drops.
are divided.
Their reflexes
Some
slow.
respect his
The
decision.
game moves
Others
on without
think he's
them.
throwing away a
And for a
golden
player like
opportunity.
Papenhuyzen,
Some
whose
whisper that
entire
he's soft,
game is
that he
built on
couldn't handle the
explosive
pressure.
pace and
Others
lightning quick
praise him for
reactions.
having the
That
courage
time
to walk
away could be
on his own
career-ending,
terms.
even if he wants to
But
return.
here's what's nobody
Melbourne
is
has
talking
already
about
moved
yet.
on. They've restructured their roster. They've planned for a future without him. The full-back position will be filled by someone else who'll make it their own. And when that happens, there's no going back. But maybe that's exactly what Paps wants. Maybe he's seen too many former players struggling with concussion symptoms years after retirement. Maybe he's watched the documentaries, read the studies, talked to the doctors. Maybe he knows something we don't about the real cost of playing this game at the highest level. Or maybe he's just a young man who's brave enough to choose happiness over expectation, to walk away from the spotlight before it burns him out completely, to define success on his own terms instead of letting the rugby league world define it for him. One thing's for certain, Ryan Papenhuyzen isn't coming back anytime soon. The door might be open, but he's already walked through a different one, and rugby league will have to learn to live without one of its brightest stars. This is the story nobody expected, the retirement that shook the NRL to its core, and it's only just beginning to sink in. For more breaking rugby league news and updates you won't find anywhere else, subscribe to Aussie NRL Updates and hit that notification bell. Because in this game, everything can change in an instant.